Well, hello everybody. This is my old 2 horsepower 230 volt speed air compressor. I've probably had this guy for 20 years, and it was probably 15 to 20 years old at the time when I purchased it. This has been an absolute great compressor for me, and it still works. The only issues I've really had with it all these years was I did replace some motor bearings not too long ago. I replaced a belt. They got chewed up, and it does have some small hairline cracks in the bottom of the crankcase there, so you can kind of see the little oil coming off here around the tank. No big deal, but this guy just simply will not die. But I am going to retire it because I picked up a pretty good score, and I'm going to show that to you right now. Well, here it is, guys. A 60-gallon vertical 5-horse 230 volt high output single stage compressor. This is a MAXair that is put out by Eagle. This actually puts out 12.5 CFM at 100 PSI. That is well more than enough to run anything I would want to run around here. Typically, I need to take things over to my dad's and use my air tools over there because he has an 80-gallon 2-stage speed air compressor. But now I can kind of bring some of my air hog air tools home and actually drive them over here, no problem. Now, this was listed on Craigslist for $500, and it was about a 20-day-old listing when I saw it, and I'm like, there's no way that's still around. But I went ahead and pinged the guy. He came back and said, yeah, I still have it. And I was like, wow, these things must be pretty slow to move, and you've got to get the right person. Well, in this case, that person was me. He had it listed for $5. I whittled him down to $450, threw it in the trailer, and brought it home. It weighs about 280 pounds, so it was kind of fun getting it in here. I have done some modifications / augmentations / additions to it to make it even perform better for me, and I will get to those momentarily. This is about a 7-year-old compressor, mind you, and the gentleman I purchased it from purchased it for one particular job, and that was to paint his wife's car. Since then, it has been sitting stagnant with all the drains opened up so it could breathe, so it was virtually rust-free and in essence brand new. This is just one of the modifications I've done. This black belt guard was mounted directly to this heavy steel plate right here, so it was vibrating horribly and making a nasty sound. So I just simply cut some rubber washers out of a fairly thick rubber, remounted that and isolated it, and it took care of that problem altogether. This is the belt that was on it, and this is one reason I don't particularly care for just standard V-belts. And the reason is they will take on a set when they sit stagnant from time to time. You can see this little tight bend right here. That's the small pulley on the motor, and of course this larger bend right here would be the compressor pulley. As these things take on a set and they're rotating around these pulleys, they will get tighter and slack out because of that right there. As this moves into the flat, it is going to get a little bit tighter. When it gets around here, it's going to get looser. You kind of get the idea of what I'm speaking of. So I did put on a Finner power twist belt, which they do not take on a set, and it takes a lot of vibration out of your equipment and tools. So that is just another upgrade I have done. I'm not sure if the compressor came with a master shutoff ball valve here, but it certainly does have one now. It was wide open, like I said, so it could breathe. I did add a Street 90 here, a simple, fairly short nipple, and then of course a 1/2-inch ball valve. So I can isolate my system right here if there is any kind of a breakdown in the hose or whatnot. It's a good safety thing to have on here, so you can isolate lines. This is another upgrade I've done. Typically these vertical compressors like this, or even some of the horizontal, the bigger ones, you would bolt these legs directly down to the substrate. Let's say it's a concrete floor. Maybe you use some rubber isolation in between, maybe not. Well, I'm on a wooden substrate here in my outbuilding, so in lieu of doing that, I've added these isolation dampeners right here, which I also have 4 of these underneath my metal turning lathe, and they work great. I picked these up from Wholesale Tool, and they were about $11 a piece, and there's 3 feet on this one. Do your own math. But the thing sits firm, sits still, it doesn't walk about, and it does help with from transmitting any vibrations through the structure itself. Alright, well this is one of the best upgrades I've done to it, and this is an automatic tank drain. They have mechanical devices for this, and I've used them before from Harbor Freight, and it worked okay, aside from me having to machine a new part to make it work. But this is an electronic device here. So in essence, when a compressor draws in air, that air is going to have moisture in it, depending on the part of the country you're in, or the world for that matter, is going to regulate how much humidity or moisture is in that air and how much is actually going to condense down into your tank. You do need to blow these out often, or what can happen over time, or what will happen over time, is you'll in essence get pinholes, rust pinholes coming through in the bottom of your tank, rendering it useless. What this does is take care of it for me. I do not have to come out here and manually drain the water off my tank anymore. So this is cheap insurance to ensure that my cheap investment is going to last me for many years to come. Now I did purchase this directly from China via Amazon, and this was $25 to my door, minus the power cord. Does not come with that. But if you start looking through the states, Granger, this, that, and the other, these are $300 plus. No way. I only paid $450 for the compressor. So, in essence, here's how they work. You tap in here. I have a secondary T here. We're going to come back to this in a moment. Bring in here. So here is where your tank drain would in essence be. You can see there's a ball valve right here. This is an isolation valve. There is a filter down in here, a stainless steel screen filter. So you can close this valve, take the filter out, clean it, blow it out, whatever you need to do, and then put it back into service, because they will get some particulate in there from time to time. The particular valve itself has two dials on the front of it. The first one is how long the solenoid valve will stay open to blow that moisture out of the tank. This valve is how often it will open. So at this case, I have mine open for about 1 second every 10 minutes. So as that moisture comes down and collects and condenses, it's going to blow that out through this particular hose. This hose, instead of spraying it out onto my floor here, I've run around and down, and it's actually underneath my outbuilding. So every 10 minutes for 1 second, here's what happens. This is a test button. And that's it. It's blowing any condensation out of here. This second hose back here off this T, I've got another ball valve. This is my manual drain. If I want to blow the tank for any reason manually, I don't have to take anything apart. I just simply open this valve. And I can blow my tank out this way. And it as well runs over down underneath the floor. I was going to put a T in here, a barb T, and T all this together and only have one going through the floor. But this was more economical for my purposes. What's one more hole? This particular hose right here is a hose remnant that I picked up from Harbor Freight. I believe it was about $4.50 or $5 for between 8 and 15 feet. That's how they sell those. So if you guys need sections, entertain that. Okay, well, while we're still on the subject of this valve, I wanted to touch base on how I have mine wired in. A lot of folks would typically wire these in to the load side of the contactor or the mag switch or something like that. So it's only going to generate power and open and blow the moisture out when the compressor is running, when the motor is engaged. I think that's a little bit backwards, especially for my application. If that be the case, once the compressor builds up and it cycles off, this valve is not going to let any further condensation out of it, so you're still going to have some in the tank. I don't like that. The way I've done mine is I've wired mine in to the line side of the contactor. So the power comes in, and as soon as it's turned on, not even running, this has power applied to it, as you can see right now. Now I control my compressor via a circuit breaker in my shop. When I'm finished working for the day or the evening or whatnot, I always turn it off. So that ensures to me that when I need air, I turn it on with the breaker, the compressor runs up if it needs to, and while it's on, every 1 second for every 10 minutes, it will open up this valve and purge any moisture out. In the event I do forget to turn my compressor off, the only thing that is going to happen is as it purges any collected moisture out of here and reaches down to the cut-in cycle, let's say it's 95 pounds, it's simply going to pump itself back up and start that again. It's just going to cycle the compressor, but it's not going to be hard on it at all. So I've elected to run mine this way, and that is going to ensure that I never, ever have any condensation left in the tank. Well, alright guys, this is one of the quietest single-stage belt-driven compressors I've ever heard. I'm going to go up here and turn it on just to let you hear it. I don't know if the video is going to do it justice, but I assure you it is super quiet. Wow. Well, alright guys, this is somewhat of a tool gloat, my own score, but I still am completely satisfied with this particular MAXair compressor. I could imagine that the newer ones, even though this was an older one, might even be a little bit better, who knows. But if anybody's in the market for a 60-gallon vertical type compressor like this, you might entertain these MAXair compressors. I believe Wood Industries puts out Eagle, that brand, MAXair, the one you're looking at, as well as Iron Horse. And based on my looking, they all appear to come out of the same factory. They just have different colors. I would recommend, if anyone were to pick one up, to maybe entertain an automatic tank drain and set it up similar to this. Some of those isolation feet I've put on it. Isolate the belt guard, as well as maybe put a power twist belt on it, or at least a new V-belt that does not have a set in it. So, hope this helps someone in some way. Thanks for watching, guys, and good luck.